Yeah.
Good evening and welcome to our regular City Council meeting this December the 9th of 2024. We're going to start out with our invocation. Police Officer Tony Walker will provide us with our invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Boy Scout Troop 59. If you would, please stand with me.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Let us pray. Father God, we thank you for a night to come together to honor those, Father, for safety, that who protects this city, Father, from the fire to from the police to the EMS. We thank you for our council members, Father God, that who has given their time and their energy to promote and do things for the city, to promote the citizens, Father. Bless them as they make decisions. Bless this city as we continue to grow. Bless everything that we continue to do. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Color Guard advance. Color Guard post the colors. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Mayor, City of Mount Holly, thank you for having us tonight. I've got a packed house tonight, Mr. Mayor. You must have something special going on tonight.
A lot of moving parts.
Tonight, in this time of Christmas, I'd just like to remind everybody, let's remember what the season's about. There are some gentlemen lying in the back wall tonight that are very special to this community. And I'd like to say thank you very much for your service back there to all the members of the fire department that are here to be honored tonight. And reach out to your neighbors during this time of Christmas and make sure they're okay. The weather's getting colder. So let's reach out and take care of each other during this time of the year. Thank you.
Before the Boy Scouts go down, I want to mention one thing. We lost Officer Tyler Herndon. On Wednesday will be 4 years. So we want to do a moment of silence for him. And if you get a minute to ride down Oakland Street, they're doing the carriage rides tonight through Wednesday, and they've done all the luminaries in blue. So if you get a chance to ride down Oakland Street, that would be good. So let's have a moment of silence for Officer Tyler Herndon. All right, thank you all. You may be seated. Okay, it's time to set the agenda. Are there any changes to our agenda? Mr. Craig.
Yes, I would like to amend the agenda for two reasons. For number two, item two, there's a potential conflict of interest on there for myself, and I'd like for it to be pulled on, to be moved down separately, so I could recuse myself. And for number five, for further discussion, I know I brought up earlier in the year about Parks and Rec Committee, and we were going to get to potentially discuss how people are appointed and reappointments and everything, and we hadn't got to do that yet, so I wanted to maybe move that and talk about it a little bit before we move forward.
Any other changes?
I have one change, Mr. Mayor. If under new business, we could move the collaboration with the University of North Carolina at Charlotte MPA capstone project discussion as item number 4 under presentations after the swearing in of our battalion chief.
Any other changes? Hearing none, I need a motion to approve the agenda. Mr. Craig, second by Ms. Harris. All in favor? The agenda has been approved. There are now 8 items on the consent agenda. I need a,
There's 10.
oh, I thought we took the 2 off.
Go from 12 to 10.
Yes, okay, I
Thank
see
you.
the 12. So there's 10 items on our consent agenda. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda. Mr. Huff and Mr. Meadows, all in favor? The motion passes. If I could have City Council follow me to the floor, we're going to do the employee years of recognition at this time. All right, this is a fun part of being mayor, and the council will be very happy to recognize these our people here. Our employees are our greatest asset, and we're so thankful for each of them. They work so hard day in and day out, and we're a team, we're a family, and we just try to do our best every day. So these are folks that have been here for 5, 10, 15, 25 years. So we're going to start out with a streets and sanitation certificate for Brian Baldwin. If you'll come up, please. We're going to get a picture of me, Brian. Congratulations. Take this stuff off here. Streets and sanitation. Let's give him a hand, please. Next, with the streets and sanitation, is Jake Bonin. If you'll come up, please. Jake here. Fire Department. Jake Bonin. Here he comes. So that's no more of those, right? This is all Fire Department. This is fire. Congratulations, Jake. Let's get a photo. Next, with the fire department, Mr. Blake Buchanan. Okay, also with the fire department with 5-year service, Mr. Brandon Potts. Okay, next we're going to go to the police department with 5 years of service, Miss Haley Helton. Also with the Police Department with 5 years of service, Mr. Sean Hellman. Also, with 5 years of dedicated service to the city with the Police Department, Mr. Joseph Griffin. Now we have, for over 10 years of dedicated service to the city of Mount Holly with the Police Department, Mr. Austin Cox. Okay, next, for 10 years of dedicated service with the Water Department, Madison Massey. Madison here? No, she's not here. All right. Next, for 10 years of dedicated service to our city, streets and sanitation, Patrick Britton. Patrick's not here. Okay. All right, we're jumping up to 15 years now. 15 years of dedicated service to the city of Mount Holly with the Police Department, Jerry Arthurs. Okay, next with the Fire Department for 15 years of service with the city, Tim Treese. All right, next on our list of 15 years of service with the Fire Department, Mr. Jason Black. Moving forward with 20 years of faithful service and dedicated service to our city, with the police department, Mr. Tony Walker. Next, with 20 years of faithful and dedicated service from the fire department, Mr. Clint Laughlin. Next, we have, in recognition of 20 years of faithful and dedicated service, from the Water Department, Mr. Mike Martin. All right, moving forward. In recognition of 20 years of faithful and dedicated service, Suzette Nichols, otherwise known as Michelle. Next, we have, in recognition of 20 years of faithful and dedicated service with the Streets Department, Mr. Ralph Hall. Okay, we have another 20-year faithful and dedicated service in finance, Miss Becky Condor. Everybody loves Becky because she helps sign the checks. All right, 25 years. 25 years. In recognition of 25 years of faithful and dedicated service, Miss Tammy Ernie.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, citizens of Mount Holly. It's a privilege to stand up here in front of you every single time that I get the opportunity to. But tonight, we're going to recognize 5 gentlemen that have exemplified and shown what it means to become an officer in the Mount Holly Fire Department. First, we're going to start off with 2 recently promoted captains. They're going to be pinned tonight. But first, I would call forward Hayden Kish and Gaetano Leone.
Discharge of duties as captain of the City of Mount Holly Fire Department under the appointment of the City of Mount Holly to the laws of North Carolina to the best of your skills and abilities. So help you God. All right. Congratulations.
Captain Kish is being pinned by his wife, and Captain Leone is being pinned by his youngest son. Maybe. All right, the next 3 gentlemen that are going to be pinned, they are filling a rank that we just created within the department this year. They are the battalion chiefs for the department, and their role is to be the supervisor when I'm at home in the bed. And it's nice to know that you've got good quality people here protecting the citizens of Mount Holly, and so far they're doing an amazing job, and it is great to see how much work it takes off of our shoulders so that the deputy chief and myself can do our jobs as well. So you are in good hands. So at this time, I'll call Justin Westbrook, Blake Buchanan, and where are you? I'm trying to make eye contact. And there he is, Patrick Mayhew.
Do you solemnly swear that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America and the state of North Carolina against all enemies, both foreign and domestic, and you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as battalion chief of the City of Mount Holly Fire Department under the appointment of the City of Mount Holly to the laws of North Carolina to the best of your skills and abilities. So help you God. Congratulations, man.
If the family members would come forward. Captain Kish and Leone, if you would come back forward for one more photo. Oh.
That's a lot of recognition tonight, isn't it? We have a great staff. We have great workers here. We're a family here in Mount Holly, so we're very, very thankful, and we have so many dedicated people that are here for our city doing so many great things. At this time, we're going to take a 5-minute break. Thank you all for being here.
What's happening, brother?
What's good?
A lot of stuff, yeah.
I probably need to do that myself, shaking all them hands. Yeah, baby. Saw that baby coming up. I said, I gotta have it. How you been?
Later.
Yeah, how about you? Oh, wonderful. It's great. Oh, wow. I could go for that about right now. We're going.
Good job, Mayor.
What kind of uniform is that?
Great job.
I don't know. That's new. I like that.
Hey, brother.
I like that uniform. Yeah. Looks good. Doing all right? Good, man.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Working tonight? Gotcha. All right, you too, brother. Be safe.
It's in the agenda packet. You want to do that?
So like Jeff looked over at me.
That's
Or did
pretty
you?
good room, dude.
Yeah. For real.
yeah, it got cooler in here too.
Yeah.
I'm getting it.
it dropped about 10
I told
Yeah.
her she's freaking
Feeling
out.
pretty good.
Yeah, and I've been communicating with her, and she just.
We're going to talk about the audit.
Yippee. Yeah. There's two-step verification. Yes, it's me.
My mom was.
We're gonna have to, yeah, should be good. We just gotta we're gonna get him a sign, and I'm gonna talk to the police chief about taking him and after the parade, bringing him maybe back to the office, and he should go to the parade from there. Just so he won't have to, you know.
That was far.
Right.
Okay, that should work.
Well, he's the VIP, so.
It'll be real nice.
Well then, don't. Yeah, this is just should have everything loaded up. Okay.
I was worried.
Zoom in. Yeah. Zoom in a little bit. I don't know
This is
if
the
they
full
have
audit,
it.
though, isn't it?
I think so.
They're queuing up the audit presentation, but they're supposed to do UNC capstone.
Yeah, she's telling me that. I guess if they have any
Maybe they're
questions.
just getting them both queued up.
So I feel like the general message here is that it's a horrible place to work.
COVID,
So, like,
pneumonia.
That's why so many people stay,
Exactly.
right?
It's a horrible place to work.
Hey,
That's why
hands.
people make it to 25 years.
Separate.
That's like my
Any hands
place
that
of
we
work.
shake?
Like, we had, like
Yeah,
two people
hugs.
retire last year, and one had like 33 years, and one had like 31 years, and it was like, it's obviously terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They hang around for a reason.
Yeah.
last job I had, I planned on being there 2 to 3 years, and 13.
Oh, I was gonna be like burned out for 3 years to get tenure and then be back to making 22 years later. I like Brian's line. It was like, so you started working when you were 12, right?
Yeah. If they have since fired, I'd probably still be working. I don't know how to make it go.
Would you come?
Seriously, that's good. I mean, they've been into that was chaos.
She finally went after the woman who had been there for 28, 29 years, and everybody loved her. She had a relationship with one of the board members that like,
Easy enough.
how'd you make it this far now? Suddenly she's a problem, and she was the last one I talked about.
We got it figured out.
While she had retired, they went back through all of her stuff, and then like the rest of it, she just said, screw it, I'm out of here. She actually sent them like documentation when she did her exit interview. So that made it to a board member, which they started looking at, well, how did she go for umpteen years without any real issues in any of her performance?
Oh, I know. I unsubscribe to a bunch of stuff every day.
4 or 5 on a 5.
And then I just keep getting more and more.
4.2, 4.3 for years. And you come in, so now I've got 1s, and my projects are still rolling. Problem.
Thank you. Hi, my friend.
Oh, thanks.
It's a pleasure.
Everybody's using it.
Yeah.
We shook so many hands.
Yeah, we've already.
It's mine, you can have some.
I need to not have seats.
I can do anything for you, reach out.
While we were down
The
there, I was
bottom of
like,
hand
I put some
sanitizer is the
in that
cleanest
purse.
part of it.
I doubt that.
I couldn't remember.
Yes, I'm glad you did.
Probably the nozzle thing is probably not good.
The top's not.
Have one. Thank you for being here.
I just got stuff everywhere. Thanks. Now the table is also very clean.
Yes, everything's clean now.
And my
And your
pants.
pants.
My pants are also very clean.
I usually have a spot on
I
my
didn't-
pants
I didn't
in my
make
car because every time it's right here at my door, I do it and it falls off my hand and goes into my pants. It's like every pair, pretty much.
All right, we're going to get started back in our presentations. At this time, we're going to have a presentation with collaboration with the University of North Carolina at Charlotte MPA capstone project discussion. Mr. Blanton.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. I am excited to introduce our friends from UNC Charlotte tonight. Over the course of this semester, they have been working with us on their capstone project as these students complete their Master's in Public Administration degree. This is the first time that they have partnered with the City of Mount Holly on their capstone project. We met several months ago and have spent the last few months working on a thorough review and some update recommendations to our personnel policy. So they have done a fantastic job, and I'm sure you all will be as impressed as management was with the presentation that they have before you tonight, Council.
I will say it's a mighty tough act to follow. We didn't bring any kids with us. I hope you'll still enjoy this. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for taking the time to receive this presentation. My name is Malin Joyner, and this is my colleague, Kyle Brunn. We're here on behalf of the UNC Charlotte Gerald G. Fox Master of Public Administration program and the 11 students from this program who spent the past semester reviewing Mount Holly's personnel policy. Over the course of the semester, we've benchmarked your policy against 13 other North Carolina municipalities to identify opportunities for improvement, such as better aligning with state and federal statutes and municipal best practices. This is a clicking situation, there we go. Having taken a look at some of your backgrounds, I know that you understand the workings of local government as well as anyone, but for the purpose of our report, I remind the council that the purpose of a personnel policy is to set expectations between employee and employer. Personnel policies typically include many types of information, such as the three before you. There's basic information like attendance and dress code, procedural, like holidays, benefits, and evaluation. Sorry for the funkiness on that slide there. And regulatory information such as federal mandates and employee rights. Mount Holly's personnel policy was last updated in 2018, and as you can imagine, things have changed over the last 6 years. Because of these changes and their inevitability, it's important to review all organizational policies from time to time to ensure that they're keeping up with the times. A few things that might require you to take another look at a policy include demographic shifts, evolving best practices, an expanding workforce, and new or changed federal and state statutes. In our research, we found that Mount Holly is doing an average job of keeping up. Out of 14 North Carolina municipalities, Mount Holly ranks 8th in comprehensiveness. Comprehensiveness was determined by the total number of potential policy inclusions that a municipality could choose to incorporate into its policy. And you'll see here the benchmark cities that we compared your policy against. With this information, our team formulated 5 formal recommendations to improve the comprehensiveness of Mount Holly's policy while simultaneously improving employee comprehension. Our first recommendation has everything to do with first impressions. While employees only get one shot to make a good impression on the city, so does the city when meeting their employees. We recommend adding a manager's message and a city history page to give new employees an idea of who they're working for, what the goals of the organization are, and what they can expect from the city and the community. The recommended message and history are available to you in the report on page 49. I'm particularly proud of this piece, so naturally I had to introduce it, but I'll pass things over to Kyle to handle the remaining recommendations.
Thank you, Maylin, and I'd like to echo her sentiment and thanking you all for having us here and letting us work with you over the semester. This is a very fun capstone to be able to do, so we appreciate it. When organizing our findings, we looked at several factors. So these criteria included proximity to a major city in North Carolina and a similar population size to Mount Holly. As we developed our following recommendations, we also identified the best example from one of our benchmark cities for each policy so that it's a little quicker for you all to review and check out what they are doing there. You'll see these listed both in our report and in the slides to follow. Now for the good stuff. First, we looked at Article 1. There you go. This covers the overarching policies and general provisions for employment with Mount Holly. Our team is recommending adding 3 new sections and updating the definition section. The first of these additions is clarifying the responsibilities of the city's HR department. 62% of the benchmark cities included this detail, and we feel it may help provide greater clarity within the policy by adding this. Given that employment within a city government can vary so widely with employees regarding their prior experience, education level, and their specific role within the city, clarity surrounding the HR department is likely to help these new employees. Next, we recommend the addition of a merit statement within Article 1 that states the intention of the city to utilize only impartial and fair judgment of any candidates considered for hire or promotion. While this is in line with state statutes, this boilerplate language can also be important in creating a more equitable work environment and reducing city liability. Additionally, 69% of benchmark cities include this language, so adding this section will put Mount Holly in line with the majority of its peer cities. A good example that we included of a merit statement in the report is actually your neighbors in Belmont. Furthermore, in alignment with the merit-based policies implemented in both Belmont and Clemens, the city should consider establishing a structured review mechanism. This would involve supervisors delivering merit-based feedback using a standardized scorecard, ensuring that each employee's performance is evaluated objectively. Such an approach would not only enhance fairness, but also enable the city to effectively track and document professional growth over time. We also recommend the addition of an employment at will section, which would clarify that employees can be terminated without further contractual obligations on the part of the city. 77% of the benchmark cities included this in their policy, so you'd be in good company. Similarly to the merit-based statement, this is useful language to have written out in the event of conflicts down the road for the city. So Mount Holly has an existing section with comprehensive employment term definitions that enhance employee knowledge and understanding of the policy. Our team has compiled a list of terms that were not originally included in the policy, and we recommend adding these to this section. These can be found on page 56 of the final report. This should continue to improve clarity within the policy and bring every employee's understanding onto a level playing field. Now moving on to section 5, we looked at the conditions for employment. These are key policies that set clear expectations and requirements for work conduct, safety, and compliance with federal and state laws. We recommend adding 8 sections, updating language in 3 other sections, and then also moving 3 sections to a different article. Among the additions we recommend are identification policies, such as policies surrounding IDs, badges, etc., fitness for duty policy language as needed for more high-strain positions, and language specifically highlighting the permissible uses of city property. The above 2 slides will show the % inclusion of these various policies and the best benchmarked example. This can all be found in the report as well for a more thorough review later. When it comes to updating the current sections in the policy, there are several recommendations, each listed in this first and second slide to be shown. I know that personally, I found the work schedule, severe weather, and defamation policies to be the most interesting. All of them are relatively simple process alterations that we believe will make a big difference in building solid lines of communication between management and their employees. Not doing anything, I swear.
No, it's not you.
Broke it.
I guess. All right, concluding Article 5, there are 3 policies that we think should be moved from this section to a new employee responsibilities article that we'll cover momentarily. These include the outside employment, dual employment, and employment of relatives clauses. Now for Article 11. The general framework of Article 11 outlines the regulations, procedures, and practices for storing personnel records and reports by the city. The only recommendation we have is to amend the language to include specific emphasis on the equal severity of repercussions relating to the access, removal, or copying of confidential information. So for clarity, the city already uses most of this language. We just recommend adding the bold section in that passage to more closely align with the state statute. For our 5th recommendation, we now bring in the aforementioned employee responsibilities section. We feel that as city employees, the responsibility to uphold the public trust and represent the city well are important enough to warrant their own section. This separation will help organizationally recognize this important role that each employee holds.
Back to me. Oh.
I guess I do.
There we go.
Thank you. We specifically recommend adding the presented 10 sections to this new article, with the first 7 being completely new to the policy. We also
I will just talk very loudly while we figure out this technical difficulty. As the city of Mount Holly continues to grow and adapt, future research should delve into the evolving demographics and population trends that may influence municipal services and workforce dynamics. Key areas for exploration include population growth, demographic distribution, and the economic landscape, all of which can significantly impact the effectiveness of the existing personnel policy. The collaborative evaluation of the City of Mount Holly's personnel policy by UNC Charlotte's MPA team has underscored a commitment to modernizing the policy framework for municipal employment. The analysis is aimed to align Mount Holly's policies with North Carolina state statutes, comparable municipalities, and emerging best practices in public administration. We sincerely thank you for this opportunity to review your policy. Clearly, you have a great workforce here, as was recognized earlier in the evening. And having an adequate personnel policy really just puts emphasis on how much you care about your staff. And so, thank you for receiving this presentation. At this point, we'll take any questions.
Any questions from council?
Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Blanton wants just
Yeah.
to say a few words.
Again, thank you guys so much for joining with us. Dr. Jim Douglas and former Charlotte City Manager Kurt Walden are with us both tonight. They've oversaw this project, and certainly appreciate you guys sharing the time and talents of our rising MPA students, and we very much enjoyed the thoroughness, the dedication, and the time that you all spent, as well as the excellent communication weekly with my office. So on behalf of all of us, certainly good luck to you, and if there's anything that any of us can do at City of Mount Holly, we certainly are glad to help anytime that we can. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. Okay, we're going to move on with our presentations. Martin Starnes audit presentation. Brandy Fesperman with Martin Starnes.
We can see.
Hopefully that's a little bit better for you guys. So my name's Brandy Fesperman. I'm with Martin Starnes and Associates, and I'll be presenting on your 2024 audited financial statements. Your report has already been submitted to the LGC, and it has been approved. In the current year, we issued an unmodified opinion. That's a clean opinion. It's the best that we can give. And I know Michelle's not here tonight, but I would like to thank her for all of her help during the audit process. I personally wasn't on the audit team this year, but I have worked with her in the past, and she's always really great to work with. Here you can see your total fund balance for your general fund over the last 3 years. You had a decrease of about $3.9 million in the current year, leaving you with $23.3 million. The decrease was mainly due to a transfer of $5.2 million of ARPA funds from the general fund to the capital project fund. Just a little bit more information on fund balance. There are 5 different classifications of fund balance. You have your non-spendable, restricted, committed, assigned, and unassigned. And here you can see the calculation for your unassigned. These are all broken up into a little bit more detail on Exhibit C of your financial statements. But we take your total fund balance, we subtract out your non-spendable, restricted, committed, assigned, and that left you with $11.5 million in unassigned fund balance compared to $18.4 in the prior year. This is a decrease of about $6.9 million, but this is mainly due to the decrease in your overall general fund balance. We also calculate your available fund balance. We do this by taking your total fund balance, we subtract out your non-spendable, PAL bill, and stabilization by state statute. The LGC looks at that amount over your total expenses and transfers out. In the current year, you had 67.3%. 8.33% is approximately a month's worth of expenses per the LGC. So for 2024, the city has almost 8 months worth of fund balance. And here you can see that available fund balance amount in terms of dollars. In 2024, that was $19.1 million, and your total expenses and transfers out was $28.5 million. So that's how we calculated the 67.25% that you saw on the previous slide. On into your revenues and expenses. Your general fund revenues went from $19.9 million to $24.6 million in the current year, and your expenses went from $18.4 million to $23.3 million. And we'll go into the details of those in the next few slides. Okay. And here you can see what makes up your revenues. The majority of your revenues are coming from ad valorem taxes, making up 52%, followed by unrestricted intergovernmental and investment earnings. These top 3 revenue sources make up 90% of your total general fund revenues. Your ad valorem taxes went from $9.8 million to $12.6 million. This is an increase of about $2.8 million or 29%. This is mainly due to the increase in your valuation over the prior year. Your unrestricted intergovernmental went from $5.9 million to $6.5 million. This is an increase of about $521,000 or 9%. mainly due to the increase in your local option sales tax. Your investment earnings went from 1.3 million to about 2.5 million. This is an increase of about 1.2 million or 88% due to an increase in higher rates and economic activity. On into your expenditures. The majority of your expenses are coming from public safety, making up 40%, followed by general government and capital outlay, both making up 16%. These top three expenditures make up 72% of your total expenses. The Public Safety Department expenses went from 6.9 million to 9.2 million. This was an increase of about 2.3 million or 33.46%, and this is mainly due to an increase in salaries and benefits in the current year. Your general government went from a little over 3 million to 3.7 million. This is an increase of about 744,000 or 25%, again due to an increase in salaries and benefits. And your capital outlay went from 3.1 million to 3.6 million. This is an increase of about 543,000 or 17.5%, and this was due to the purchase of a fire truck and several other vehicles in the current year. Okay, on into your water sewer fund. Your operating revenues increased about 364,000 or 3%. That's very comparable to prior year. Your non-operating revenues increased about 15,000 or 7%. Again, that's pretty comparable to prior year. Your capital outlay decreased about 1 million or 43%. This is due to several one-time purchases made in the prior year relating to your water sewer stations. And your debt services increased about 492,000 or 75%. This is due to the issuance of new debt in the current year. And your other expenses increased about 55,000 or 1%, again very comparable to prior year. Your operating income decreased 697,000, mainly due to an increase in your debt services. And your unrestricted net position increased about 1.1 million due to the decrease in your overall operating income. The next few slides are going to be LGC, coming from the LGC data input sheet. Once we finish with your financial statements, we key all that information into the data input sheet, and the LGC runs ratios on that information. Here we are looking at your liquid assets over your current liabilities. You have had a pretty consistent decrease here. This quick ratio measures how many times current assets are able to cover current liabilities or the ability to meet short-term liabilities. The city can cover its current liabilities with current assets 1.05 times. The LGC is normally concerned with a unit with a quick ratio below 1, so you are still above that. The reason for this decrease is due to a large advance from grantors that was received in the prior year, but this is for future projects. So as this money is spent, this ratio should increase. We also looked at your operating net income, excluding depreciation and debt service principal. In 2024, that was 5.5 million. A negative balance indicates that rates are not covering operating expenses, but you do have a positive balance here, so that shouldn't be an issue. And then we looked at your unrestricted cash over your total expenses, less depreciation, plus debt service principal. In the current year, that was 169%. The LGC would be concerned if this was below 16%, so you're well above that. In the current year, you did have one performance indicator. This was the water sewer capital asset conditions ratio. It is currently 0.43. The ratio calculates the remaining useful life of your capital assets. The remaining useful life of value less than 0.5 may signal that the unit may need to replace its assets in the near future. So this isn't a finding, it's just something to keep an eye on. And because of this, the city will need to provide an action plan for the LGC within 60 days of the presentation. We have already discussed this with Michelle, but if she has any questions whenever she's filling this out, she can let us know. The city also had one finding in the current year. This was concerning procurement for PABL funds. This was the first year that this program was considered a major program under the state audit, but single audit status. Michelle and management have addressed this issue with a corrective action plan, so hopefully it won't be an issue going forward. And for the TDA, their revenues went from $196,000 to $201,000. The expenses went from $169,000 to $189,000. The occupancy tax increased by about $5,000 or 2%, so that's pretty comparable to prior year. Your expenses in current year increased about $20,000 or 12%, and that was mainly due to miscellaneous expenditures and TDA stipends. And here you can see the fund balance over the last 3 years. They had an increase of about $12,000 in the current year, leaving them with $372,000. And that's all I have. Are there any questions for me?
Any questions from council? Mr. Meadows?
So I have one on the ratio that you talked about on the assets.
Yes.
Probably a question for staff. But, does the decommissioning kind of fix that? Is that our biggest issue?
Yes, sir, Councilman Meadows. That's the largest issues with the depreciation of the older equipment, what's being used at the wastewater treatment plant. With that going offline in the next 18 months, we're confident that will no longer be a performance indicator issue.
Mr. Meadows?
And you had the second item surrounding procurement. What is the action plan? Is that you or is that you?
In reference to the Powell bill, Councilman Meadows?
Yes, sir.
As Brandy was saying, this is the first year the Powell bill's been considered a major fund. The issue was that we had utilized one contractor for multiple projects, and when those projects were combined, they met the threshold for what needed to be formally bid out. The corrective action plan is that we would put an RFP together for on-call services going through the vetting process in order to be able to have one contractor on standby to help provide those services. We worked with our auditing company and the local government commission, and they were satisfied with that corrective action.
Mr. Meadows?
Just want to make sure I understand. So we're instead of just calling on a contractor on call for whatever miscellaneous issues we have, we're actually going to go through a public process, select a firm that will provide those services, and that'll satisfy the procurement requirements going forward, so the amounts won't be an issue cumulatively?
Yes, sir, Mr. Meadows.
Thanks.
Anything else? Thank you, ma'am. Oh, you've got one more? Okay.
I know
Mr.
they're
Meadows.
not here, but I want to get it on public record that our finance folks, Michelle and Becky, do an outstanding job, as is evidenced by, she is? I can't
Becky
see
is
her.
here, yeah.
Sorry, she hides all the time. So it was funny when you offered her to publicly speak, I knew that wasn't going to happen. So she doesn't even like us to acknowledge her like this. But anyway, our staff does an outstanding job, as is shown through this particular document each year, and they have faced some challenges along the way that they have handled extremely well, and they are very flexible and move with the times, and I just want to take the opportunity to call that out.
All right. Any other comments? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
This time we're going to go to public comment. We have no one signed up for public comment, so we'll move forward past that. We'll go into our old business, Riverbend Access Area discussion. Mr. Jusko.
And Mr. Mayor, as Mr. Jusko is coming up, I was just going to recap a few things in regards to this issue. At the August 26th and the September 9th meeting of the council, this was discussed at length. After those meetings, I submitted a non-binding letter of commitment that was signed September 23rd, indicating that the city was interested in pursuing a lease for this, a 30-year lease for this 68 acres of Riverbend access area owned by Duke Energy. That letter provided that if no agreement was reached by December 31st, we would forego that opportunity. Several questions were raised by council over the past few meetings, one being, why did Belmont take over the South Point Park that is currently being managed by the county through Duke? They answered that question in some correspondences that Mr. Jusko had provided, that being because it is not in the Belmont city limits. There was also some city questions regarding our response times for calls for service, and I had received several inquiries from citizens concerned that this was an annexation project. This is not an annexation project. All 68 acres as it currently stands are all within the city limits of Mount Holly, so we are currently responding to calls for services. There was discussion whether there would be interest from Gaston County to help with this. We have researched that and to date have not been able to find any additional interest from the county's part. So wanted to give that feedback and certainly can turn it over to Mr. Jessico for any additional any additional background or feedback that we can incorporate based on council's direction.
Thank you, Mayor and Council and City Manager Blanton. As he discussed, this was talked about past few meetings, just bringing it back up about Duke Energy reaching out to us to possibly lease the day use area at the Riverbend access area just north of the boat landing. Once again, the boat landing is not part of the lease. The day use area would include the swim beach, trails, bank fishing, fishing pier, park room, and restroom facilities. Duke will be constructing this whether we decide to lease it from them or not. At this time, I'll take any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Jessico? Mr. Huff?
I would move that we adopt the release.
I second that.
Okay, I have a motion for Mr. Meadows, a second by Mr. Huff. All in favor? So we have Mr. Meadows, Ms. Shoemaker, Mr. Craig, and Mr. Huff, all against. We have Ms. Harris and Mr. Reeves, so the motion passes.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
All right. Yep. So we're going to go to what was put off the consent agenda, call for public hearing to consider rezoning a portion of 1.44 acre tract of land located at 501 Belmont Mount Holly Road, tax parcel ID 183899 from B3 General Business to R12 Single Family as submitted by Billy Rick. So we just need to have a motion to approve that public hearing with the exception of Mr. Craig recusing himself.
Yes, and I don't know if it needs to be discussed, or if I need to go sit in the audience while you guys discuss, or the process of it.
I would say just the mayor noting that Councilman Craig has recused himself from these
From the vote.
I think that's
So Councilman Craig will recuse himself from this vote. So,
I make a motion. We move forward to public hearing.
okay, we have a motion by Mr. Huff, second by Mr. Meadows. All in favor? Motion passes. All right. Next would be the approval of reappointments of Teresta Ellerby and Rodney Williams to the Planning Commission for a 3-year term ending on December the 9th, 2027. Mr. Craig?
Yes, so I know I brought it up earlier in the year. I don't recall the exact meeting, but I feel like it was January or February in reference to the Parks and Rec appointment and reappointment in the process. And we stated we're going to put it off, talk about it, and we haven't yet. And so that's kind of why I'm bringing it up again, because it's kind of the best spot, because I completely forgot about it, to be honest. But I think it needs to be in discussion for how it works, since I know for years that City of Mount Holly and the committees and everything, it's kind of just reappointed. If someone wanted to say, hey, let's move forward, I'd like to stay on, they just move forward. But with people who I'm talking to, they would like to also get involved. And a lot of these committees, it would be, I don't know how to structure it. You could keep the same people and add a couple spots, or I don't know the rules and regulations on that. But definitely, I would like to discuss an opportunity to either have a term tenure, or we could discuss how we select or reappoint instead of just moving forward by saying yes or no.
Any other comments? Mr. Meadows?
To piggyback, that when we talked about this before, we were talking about having a uniform process, having a standard procedure. We passed a ordinance, I believe it was, for appointing a city council member. There was a lot of confusion around that about how, what, when, where, so we kind of cleaned that up. There's a clear direction if we're ever faced with that again. We talked about this following a similar process or procedure, and we talked about term limits and carve-outs, that kind of thing, alternatives, I guess, for getting more people involved, looking at the structure of some of the committees and how many might be on them to give more opportunity for more people to be involved. The structure that I've typically seen is it's been a council approval, not necessarily a board approval of who goes on their particular panels, if you will. And it's usually managed by the city clerk and follows a very similar process to what the city attorney, Ms. Sanders, walked us through with the city council, where there's nominations from the council up here at the dais, and then you get the 3, 4 people, 2 people, whatever it might be, and then you go through a voting process, which is what we had talked about. So just kind of wanted to put that back in to the public record with that. So for me, I'm not challenging the current appointments and the way we've been doing it, because it is the way we've been doing it. I just think that we should really be exploring alternatives to make it uniform and to provide as many opportunities to serve as possible.
Any other comment, Ms. Harris?
I can't speak to the other committees because I haven't really served on, but Recreation, I will tell you this, that a lot of people say they want to be on the Recreation Commission, and we put them on there and they end up leaving after 6 months. Then we're in the same boat. We have to get somebody else on there. And it's happened over the years. Mark can testify to it too. It's hard to get people that want to stay and work because, I mean, you know, it's a committee. You don't get paid to do it. You're just there. And I think we try to put new people on there, and we want new people on there, but they end up not staying. And that's just my 2 cents of it.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that for sure, but at the same time, we can't base the future off of what's happened in your experience in the past. So I feel like we need to go ahead and try to figure something out. Like I said, I don't want to hold up this appointment, of course, but at the same time, we need to figure something out, because if I'm still around, I'm going to continue to bring this up every time it's on the agenda.
I'm going to have Mr. Blanton speak to that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for that inquiry, Councilman Craig. We have made great strides since the spring when this was initially spoke about. Mr. Lowe, Mr. Beal did a great job putting together a rules of procedure for our Planning Commission, which the council did adopt earlier this year. We can certainly look at revisiting that to talk about specifics as it pertains to term limits or as it pertains to how the recommendation comes to council, because as Councilman Meadows said, it is just that, a recommendation. Anyone on this commission is, of course, subject to the appointment of council. And I would point to the great work that we were able to work together on for the TDA. We did a reorganization of the TDA a couple months back, expanded that board, put some new members in place on that. Just last month, we made some appointments to the ABC Commission, and I would note that our clerk's office has done a tremendous job working with these organizations over the past 6 months, cataloging their rules of procedure as recently as last month when we were evaluating the ABC Commission. So I can state that our clerk's office has been cataloging the rules of procedure, noting what has been done, noting when and what vacancies are coming before the council. With this tonight, there will be 1 open seat on the Planning Commission. There are 3 that will be coming up this month. There will be 2 incumbents that are seeking to be reappointed, and there will be a vacant seat. I would certainly, at council's direction, encourage anyone that has an interest in serving on this committee to come forward, to let it be known. We often have talked about a master list of people that may be interested in joining, so that we have a list of interested parties that may be interested in serving, so that when we do have vacancies such as the ones that we have on the Planning Commission right now, that we can have those appointed. There are certain committees, and City Attorney did a good job earlier this year drafting a memo to council talking about how these processes work. Some of these are by ordinance, that being the Recreation Commission, TDA, the Planning Commission. Those are all prescribed by ordinance, where there are other advisory committees that are created by the council. But certainly would end by saying that we are still working on cataloging those rules of procedure. We would encourage any interested person to make that known to the city, and would again underscore what Mr. Meadows said, that these are all subject to the approval of the council. You may take the recommendation from any of these committees for any type of reappointments. You may forego them. You could ask for additional interest, but at the end of the day, these are council-appointed positions and subject to your discretion.
Mr. Meadows.
Each time we have this discussion, we've got people on the table that makes me very uncomfortable. I'd like to have a discussion about this as a standalone, as the process. So it's not throwing any shade on any of the people who want to serve and have served faithfully for years. That's not the intent of raising the question. We need to have this at a time where there's not anybody that is in the mix that's even being considered. We made somebody sit through a night of, well, what are they doing? Why did they pull me off the consent agenda? What's going on here? I don't think that's good practice, and we need to get past that. With our old way of doing things, we need to talk about how is a different way to do this. And one of the levels of uncomfortableness for me, beyond the people part of people involved in the process when we have this discussion, is that when you have a group of citizens that are volunteering and they bring forward a recommendation, it's very difficult for me to take the constituents who I serve and direct me to behave in a certain way to challenge that. So we need to talk about this process while we're not talking about people, while we're not talking about a recommendation that's come from somebody doing hard work, and putting forth the effort. And just because we always did it that way, it might stay that way, I don't know. But I want to have that discussion in a way that we can explore other options. And to that end, I'd love to know what other people are doing. I happen to know that the City of Charlotte does this very differently. Is that the right model? I don't know. I'd like to have some ideas about what others are doing, and how they're accomplishing this end. So,
Mr. Huff.
I'd like to make a motion that we reappoint Ms. Ellerby and Mr. Williams to the Planning Commission for a 3-year term ending on December 9th, 2027.
Second.
Second. Motion made by Mr. Huff, second by Ms. Harris. All in favor? Motion passes.
And we will bring this back as a separate agenda item, Mr. Mayor, to future meetings.
Okay, next on our agenda is the city manager report. Mr. Blanton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are several things I wanted to bring before the council and the public tonight. It's an exciting time to be in Mount Holly. We have a lot of events going on. I want to thank staff, everyone on our governing board, members of the public that attended our Miracle on Main. It was cold, but it was a good turnout and a great way to kick off the holiday season. And that same note, we are going to be having visits with Santa right out here in the Grand Hall this Wednesday from 3:30 to 7:30 p.m. So certainly encourage everyone to come out and enjoy that fun together as we lead up to the Christmas parade, which will be this Saturday, December 14th at 5:30 p.m. We have had such great luck and good fortune with the weather and the turnout at our events this holiday season, and looking forward to continuing that on. We will be closed December 24th, 25th, and 26th for the Christmas holiday, and then again on January 1. So there will be a delay in residential garbage pickup, but certainly want to give a tremendous amount of thanks to our street and solid waste workers, all of our utility workers, police, fire, water, sewer, for working the holidays this past Thanksgiving as well as the upcoming Christmas holiday. It makes it possible for us to be able to enjoy our time with our family while they're doing what they do. And I would note, as the mayor did earlier, that I inherited a fantastic workforce when I arrived here, and that is proof by the services here tonight, by the outstanding audit that we received. I did want to make a few notes on the audit. Unfortunately, Finance Director Wood has had a death in her family and unable to be here tonight, but several points that I did want to make on the audit. First, in the general fund, there was a note in a decrease. I want to note that that decrease was planned. I sat in this audience November 2023, not as a city manager, but someone whose employment agreement was being deliberated by the council, and Brian Huff said that we were going to be committed to bringing that fund balance down as a commitment to financial responsibility, and we did just that. This year we funded many capital projects, and we're going to continue to promote financial stability by ensuring that we have enough money in fund balance to fund these capital projects, while being mindful that perhaps having 127, 130% perhaps is not the best fiscal practice. Number two, I would note that sales tax and investment earnings grew. We had an incredible year, and that is a testament to our award-winning finance staff. I am very mindful of how important, critical a good finance team is to ensure the success of a city, so certainly thank them for that work. There was a note about the water and sewer rates. We are bridging that gap. We adopted and will soon be implementing a 5-year rate study plan, 5-year rate plan, which will continue to bridge that deficit between the revenue and the expenses in the utility fund, so we are being mindful of that. And lastly, would note that our corrective actions have been accepted by the LGC. We are aware of the issues that first presented themselves this year in the Powell Fund, and as well as the other issues that were discussed tonight. With our wastewater treatment plant going offline, I am confident that that will not be an issue in the future. Lastly, I did want to note I've received a lot of inquiries about the recycling program. We've discussed that at length over the past few months. The planned course of action that we intend to bring back is to surplus those cans. There's been a need from Gaston County for additional blue cans. Some of our friends' neighborhoods in the west, we have looked at the opportunity of donating some of those cans for their services. So we're going to start looking into a informative campaign, letting our residents know that they can put their cans out. We will pick them up. We've already picked up several cans, several of the blue cans, so as more information is forthcoming, we will certainly bring that to council for review, and then we will roll that out hopefully in the first quarter of 2025. I believe that is all that I have tonight, Mr. Mayor, unless council has something they would like me to discuss.
Mr. Meadows.
Related question. You mentioned the water and sewer portion of that. You don't have to do it now, but could you bring us an update on the Stanley agreement? Sure. That seems to have kind of fallen into a hole. We haven't heard anything more about it.
Anyone else? All right, thank you, Mr. Blanton. We're going to go into our closed session pursuant to NCGS 143-318, 11A, 3, and 5. I need a motion to go into our closed session. Mr. Craig and Ms. Shoemaker, all in favor? We are now in closed session.